As a motherfucker, in this new video of Open and Tricks, I'm going to show us a game of Volodar Murzin, the current rapid world champion, and I'm going to show us the most common, yes, the most common idea against the Semi-Slav. The idea of break with e4. This works the majority of the time. Usually when white plays e4 in good condition, white have the advantage. So I'm going to show us the game and show us just why the idea of e4 is so strong in the Semi-Slav. Okay, d4, d5, c4, c6, that's the semi-Slav. Knight f3, knight f6, e3, e6. Against e3, bishop f5 maybe can be slightly better. But okay, e6 was completely playable. Bishop d3, knight d7, sword castle, bishop d6, knight d2. That's the problem of play e6 in the opening, that avoid the white to develop the knight to d2. Because in the normal lines with knight e3, now e6 is a good move, but now the knight is on c3. And black have d takes c4 in some moments, and like for example here, this knight d7, bishop d3. Now black can take on c4 on this type of lines. But okay, what black played was completely normal, so until here was everything normal, was a good development. And here came the position that I'm going to talk. Here, white breaks on e4. Why breaks on e4? Simply just take a more central space. Let's see, the black have one central pawn, so we just trade the the black with central pawn to take more space. Now we have three pawns in the 4 rank, and black only have one. So the idea of e4 is just take the space. And but what black should react with after e4? The best black response was e5, just made in the same. Normally the semi-Slav is a fight for, let's see who player makes first e4 or e5. Usually white plays e4 first, white used to be fine. And if black managed to play e5, black used to be fine. It used to be a battle between who plays e4 or e5 first. So for that reason here Murzin plays e4. That's the principal move that they're going to show us. And here the best response, the main response was the takes e4, who was played by Radek Bubnov in the game against Murzin. That's the move more employed. But e5 here was the best response. Just playing symmetrical, and yes, the position is completely symmetrical. The only difference is the c4 pawn and the c6 pawn. But white is going to take on d5 with the c pawn, so find it's just simply a symmetrical position. But okay, white have the extra tempo because it's white and it's his turn, but this is a completely symmetrical position. Okay, e takes d5 is a possibility here. D takes c5, e4 takes here knight b1, or okay, we analyze that here we are still in a completely symmetrical position with all these pawns here. It's a little bit curious, but here black managed to equal. So c takes d5 was the best move. C takes, and here we have some nothing, but for example, if e takes, all the time black is taking on d4, and this position is close to the equal. Takes on e5 doesn't work too. So the best try for white, if you play for and your opponent responds with e5, learn that the best try was take, and rook e1. That's the best option to push with white. If black is still copying white with rook e8, now we just can take, and knight e4, and okay, white is slightly better here. And white is in the pressing side. Now bishop f4, I remember that was fine. And the other option that here black have was h6. But okay, we are going to make the same, just h3, rook e8, take, and knight c4, just the same. Bishop c5 and bishop f4. And white is slightly better because this c8 bishop is undeveloped. And okay, the d4 pawn is going to fall. Especially that this bishop and this knight is so active. So of course it's not a huge shoot, but white is slightly better in these lines. But okay, what we want to see is the typical positions after the takes and everything was traded on e4. Take. Knight f6 used to be normal in this type of position, and later play c5. But just in this exactly position, I'm not sure because white plan is just double less. Put, put the bishop and the queen in the diagonal with bishop c2. So here c5 was fine. bishop c2, and this is the main theory. Okay, I'm going to show us that after e4, let's see that that e5 was the best move, but the takes e4 is the most employed move, and it scored with a 70%, which is incredible percent for just the move 8, and there are 100 games, and there this score 70%. This talk about how strong was the e4 plan. But with the rest of moves, with the normal move b3, queen c2, there are only 53, 57%. But with e4 here, the score was 66%. Was so much, of course. Okay, e4, the takes, knight takes, bishop takes c5, typical breakthrough. You with black, you should make something after all these trades. You should break with c5. And now a very good move of Murzin, bishop c2, because in some lines the knight is coming to f6, the opponent is coming to f5, so the bishop is better placed on c2. Apart that in one day can king the queen to e3 to attack h7, so that's the best square for the bishop. And now Radek make another mistake, who was employed in many games. Here the best defense was just queen c7 without touching nothing, queen d3 and f5. That's the best defense, but of course with black you never want to play like with this f5. Looks like white is slightly better here. And now white have a very good move before, because if the takes you are playing c5. So b6 defending and just take and rook d1 and here b5 and bishop and rook b1 and white is completely fine. So now the black king is more open, the later squares are open, this bishop is still being bad. This pawn is weak. So very good position for white. Instead of that, Radek has take on d4. And now Murzin have a close to be winning, yes, a completely winning position just in 12 moves. Can look that black doesn't make anything strange, yes. Uh, for the reason, for the moment, black has developed normal the pieces. Now he has take everything on d4. He plays c5 like everybody say that you should do. And here after she takes a very bad move. It's, you should play queen c7, but after she takes will look normal. Just queen d4, and white is winning. So and we're going to see why. But especially thanks to the initiative of white. These two bishops are open, and after all these typical trades with c4 and c5, let's see that this bishop is still being so bad on c8. That's the principal advantage of white. White have two advantages. The first is the central pawns. That we have more space with the central pawns. And the other advantage with the was the c8 bishop. c5. Yeah, now black trade one central pawn of white, but white have more development and his bishop is still on c8. That's why the best response was c5, trying to open the bishop too. But okay, it takes c5, 94, 94. Bishop e4, c5, bishop e2, c takes, queen takes. Okay, we're going to see how Murzin ends the game, of course. I told many about theoretical things, but okay, let's listen to finish to see the game. But I want that you understand that here white is close to be winning. Okay, bishop c5, normal move. Just attacking a7, a6, bishop h6, d6, bishop e6, rook d8, rook d1. Let's see the position. All of the white pieces are completely fine. This bishop is making a good job. And the huge problem of black is this bishop is still undeveloped. And it's impossible to develop this bishop until the end of the game. So that's why just white is winning. Okay, here Radek makes the last blunder of the position, which is f5. But okay, bishop f8 is the best, but white is winning with everything. Takes and just rook d6 or rook d4 and yeah, but let's see the difference between the pieces. The white queen is active, the black king is in the initial square. The rooks are in the a8 and f8, and one rook is on d6 and the other is coming to d1. The d7 knight is pinned. The c8 bishop is undeveloped, is completely winning position. And all of this was thanks to the move e4. Everything was thanks to e4. Okay, f5, queen e1, queen c7, and just bishop a4. The bishop is not making nothing on c2, so now she came to she traced the diagonal to put pressure to this knight. Rook b7, b4, good move. Just bishop g5, attacking the rook, c5, knight d4 now. The d6 pawn is going to fall. I told that in the lines with a5 that we saw here, the a6 pawn turns into so weak. So in this game happened the same. The the a6 pawn is so weak. So knight f6 and white finally take the pawn, and now white have a pawn up, the bishop pair, and these two diagonals completely open. Now with the diagonal where white side made black, sorry. Knight d4 and just checkmate and take and rook d7 taking the queen, and here black just resign. So very static game of Volodar Murzin. Well, of course he know that the move before was so typical in this position. He doesn't create nothing. He simply knows the concept and break on e4. So I hope that you learn with this video, and I hope that in your following games against the Semi-Slav, you can break on e4 too and win the game in the same way that Volodar Murzin. This happened in this exactly position, but there are many positions in the Semi-Slav that this e4 was the best move, especially if you have more development, or you place well your pieces, your queen e2, your rooks in the center. This move used to be good. You always after e4, you should your two principal reaction that you should analyze was or take everything on c4 and then break with c5 or knight f6 c5 or e4 e5. That's the other breakthrough that you should watch. If your opponent play if you when you play e4, watch that your opponent can play e5 too. So let's apply that in your games and win many games. Bye bye, motherfuckers.